Hey everybody, welcome to DevRunner. My name is Paul. Sorry for the distraction already. My name is Paul. I am a 52-year-old endurance runner. I'm also an RRCA certified running coach. I am training currently for a 2-hour and 45-minute marathon attempt, which will take place at the Tobacco Road Marathon in Cary, North Carolina on March 20th of this year. I am currently, this is the last run of a down mileage week for me, where I'm just kind of allowing my body an opportunity to recharge. And so this run today is going to be a 20-mile long run on my treadmill. And I figured as long as I'm suffering, I might as well share my suffering with you. So if you're out there, folks, please make yourself known. I would love to get comments and questions along the way. Hey, Misty, great to see you. How you doing? That's awesome. I'm so glad to see you here this morning. I hope Saturday is treating you well so far. Folks, the only thing I want to say regarding the comments as they come in, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The only thing I would encourage you to do is keep your statements short, because I'm going to be attempting to read them, obviously, as I'm running, kind of leaning off to the side here and trying not to fall off the treadmill. So the shorter it is, the better. There's Michael Sanderson. Hey, Michael, how's it going? And oh, Kirsten Quickfit. Wow, the gang is all here. This is awesome. I am well. Kirsten mentioned your run today. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kirsten. And thank you again, Misty, for jumping in. You guys are great. So I'm going to try to keep this intro fairly short. Yeah, if you guys have questions along the way or comments or encouragement, of course, they are always welcome. My plan for this particular run, again, this is a 20-mile long run. It's coming at the end of a down mileage week, which means I attempted over the last 7 days to give my body a chance to recharge after 4 hard weeks in a row. And so this week, I do not want to push my limits. Basically, I want to start the run slow, like in an easy pace for me, which is going to be 7.5 miles per hour, which equals 8-minute miles. And as each 2 miles go by, I'm going to pump up the speed on the treadmill by a mere 1/10 of a mile per hour. So at mile 2, we'll go up to 7.6 miles per hour, blah, 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 blah. And hopefully finish off at 7-minute miles. If I feel great at that point, maybe we'll really pick it up towards the end. If I'm feeling horrible and I'm barely hanging on, we may even back off. I don't know. But the intention is to run this as a progression run, a mild progression run. Hey, Frugal Mama, I'm so happy you're here. That's awesome. Thank you for jumping in. Again, guys, if you've got questions or comments, I'll be more than happy to answer them as we go. If there are questions about your running or anything like that. And let me apologize now. I'm not going to be sort of sharing your comments to the main screen, because there's no way I can sort of, huff along here and run and still manage to get everything moving over there. I'm not quite that dexterous. So, folks, let's see. Second camera seems to be working. Main camera seems to be working. When I lean in, I can see what's going on. Cool. So my plan here, as far as what I'm going to talk about, I'm probably going to take you through my marathon running history, starting in January of 2015, and we'll go from there. Or at some point, we'll talk about that. I think what I'll probably start off talking about is just my random thoughts on this particular training block and why I'm going after a 2-hour and 45-minute marathon time this time around, and what led up to this. And then we'll go more in depth about my marathon training history and my 10 marathons up to this point. And I expect at some point I will be bored myself of talking about that stuff, the run-related stuff. So at that point, I'm probably going to go off into a complete tangent. And thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. The two cameras. The secondary camera over here is actually my phone up on a tripod on a table out in the foyer of my house, because this little sort of front sitting room here is just to the left of my front door. Well, so that's my front door there. And my wife loves having the treadmill here in the front sitting room, but until I finish the floors, redoing the floors in our dining room, this is where it is, and then I'll tuck it into a corner where it's not so easily seen. Anyway, we love a tangent. Okay, cool. So yeah, as far as once I'm bored talking about running, folks, I'm going to start talking about music, because my other big passion in life is music. I'm a musician, have been since I was 17 years old, and I started playing guitar. So I'm going to talk about playing guitar. I'm going to talk about the kind of music I love to play. I'm going to talk about what my influences are, all of my favorite bands. So if you are working out this morning, or if you're just sitting around with nothing to do, and you're just going to actually sit through most of this, I will reveal all that fun. We'll talk about even favorite albums, favorite tracks on favorite albums, whatever works. And I'd love to get your feedback at that point. Let's save that. We're just going to get started now. If you will bear with me, I'm going to leave some dead air for just a quick second. Something's going on in the other room that needs some quick attention before I am tied up for 2.5 hours running. Bear with me. All right, everybody, I'm back. Sorry for that. Yeah, 2.5 hours running. It's 20 miles, and I'm not going to be moving all that fast. The quick math that I've done, Kirsten, says that my average, if I'm starting at 7.5 miles per hour and finishing around 8.5, 8.6 miles per hour, my average should be 730 miles for the 20 miles, which equals 2 hours and 30 minutes, somewhere around in there. All right, folks, I think I've spoken long enough. I'll certainly let it play in chat when I can. That's awesome, Misty. Yeah, I'd love to have some chatter going on in the window as I go. Here we go, folks. Let's do a quick talk about how I'm fueling for this run. This bottle, which looks like plain water, actually is not. This is Green Tea Buzz Tailwind. There are 2 full scoops, so there's 200 calories with electrolytes and caffeine in here. In this bottle is straight lemon lime Gatorade for a sugar rush when I need it in the latter miles, when I'm more just worried about just like sort of a massive boost. I also have my favorite trusty gels, which are, let's see if I can do this right, Cliff Strawberry Shots. And this is 100 calories of maltodextrin with various electrolytes and 25 milligrams of caffeine per each one. My plan is to take 1 every 5 miles. If I'm feeling hyped up already, I'll probably back off of that and maybe do once every 6, maybe even 7 miles. And if I'm feeling desperate, maybe even more often than that. Hopefully that gets me through the run. All right, folks, I'm going to start tapping buttons here on the main screen here for the treadmill. Thank goodness it's actually working. Have fun, Paul. Hey, the old ultra runner. Jay, how's it going, sir? Thanks for joining. We will again be talking about my current marathon training. We will be talking about my marathon running history, and then we'll probably start into stuff that's a lot more fun, like playing guitar, writing music, recording music, what my favorite bands are, my favorite albums, and even my favorite tracks of all time. That'll probably be in the later miles once we pass the halfway point. All right, so let's get this thing to 7.5 miles per hour, end the warm-up. We are officially underway as the belt speeds up. Am I missing anything here? Interesting info about fueling. Okay, cool. I'm glad that's helpful, mister. Yeah, fuel is the only way you can run long. Fuel and liquid. Constant influx of liquid. And as an old man, I'll tell you, taking in lots of liquid, it's hard to find the balance between getting enough liquid so you don't dehydrate and end up in bad shape towards the end of the long run, and having to constantly make pit stops. Now, the last time I did one of these long runs on as a live stream, a couple of weeks ago, I did an 18-miler, and I actually had to run off camera, not because puppies and kittens were fighting in the next room, but because I had to run and use the restroom a couple of times towards the beginning, but then I settled in and everything was okay. So if anybody ever tunes in and I'm not on camera, if you're just staring at an empty room, it's for one of two reasons. As I said the last time, either it's a restroom break or I've been thrown off the back of the treadmill and I'm plastered to the wall behind me. Hopefully that doesn't happen. This is my second ProForm treadmill in a year and a half, because the first one actually did throw me off the back, and I was plastered against the back wall. That was just my big chocolate lab who walked past. I think he was underneath the shot. I don't know if he came across. He was on camera there when he went running by. But other family members are currently in the kitchen. And as soon as my big chocolate lab knows there's somebody in the kitchen, he knows there's food being prepared. So he always makes a beeline. Because you never know when somebody's going to drop something, or when somebody's going to feel generous and share with them. At this point in my current training cycle, I have not met my goals as far as where I want to be weight-wise. I'm currently weighing in at 142 pounds. I wanted to be at 140 pounds even by February 1st, so that I could spend February trying to get down to 135 pounds, which would be my lightest race weight in 3 or 4 years. And at that weight, I feel feather light, but I'm not like eating away at my muscle. My muscles, I'm still plenty strong, at least enough to see me to a race starting line and to get through a race and make it feel far, make the race require far less effort to move as fast as I want to move. I don't think I could maintain 135 pounds as my walking around weight in life. I think I'm just too susceptible to pulls and strains when I'm weightlifting and stuff like that. But when it comes to racing, my specific race weight, somewhere in the mid-130s works really well for me. I've never run a race, a marathon, weighing less than 135. But over the last couple of years, we're just past a half mile, folks. We're currently cruising at 7.5 miles per hour, or 8 miles. Thank goodness so far I feel good. So what was I saying now? Yeah, I don't think I could walk around day to day at 135. The last like 3 years, I've gone into most of my marathons weighing in at about 138, 139, which is good, but in the later miles of my last 4 or 5 marathons, I felt kind of like it was a little too hard to push. And I'm sure that was a combination of, training, fueling, all that kind of fun stuff. But right now, going after a 2 hour and 45 minute marathon, I feel like every tiny little advantage I can give myself is only going to help. So if I can be 2 or 3 pounds lighter, I'll take it. Assuming I can get there safely and gradually, because losing too much weight too quickly when you're putting massive training demands on your body, as Kirsten can tell you, it's not a good idea. You end up hurting yourself, you get sick, etc., etc. So it has to be a gradual loss. In my last training cycle, which started last July, I think, and built up to December, or no, it was late August, I think, started. I set a goal of losing a pound a week, and that's pretty healthy because it's gradual, doesn't shock your body, doesn't screw up your metabolism. We are 3/4 of a mile into this odyssey, folks. I'm gonna try to lean in. I can see a handful of comments that come in, but I can't see them with my old man eyes. Bert says, "Hi, Paul. I hope the Proform belt doesn't slip again." That fall sounded awful. Yeah, I was just joking about that earlier, Burps. I wish Paul had the iPad in front of him. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Before I went live today, I've actually got an external Logitech webcam on top of the laptop, which is sitting here on a piece of furniture beside the Proform. I was looking for a place where I could mount the Logitech webcam that was a little bit more of a straight-on shot, but I didn't want to hook it to the machine itself because the bounce would just be beyond annoying. But then I thought to myself, this is a pretty good angle. As long as I look off to my left here, I'm looking right into the camera. And whenever I try to lean in to read the chat, I got to lean in this way anyway. So hopefully it serves. Hopefully it's a decent angle. Hopefully you're not seeing up my nose a little more than anybody really wants to. All right, we're approaching 1 mile here already, folks. I'm feeling really comfortable. Now, before we started, I showed everybody what I'm fueling with, but I did not talk about the timing of my fueling. When I'm outside on a long run, and I'm wearing my hydration vest with the liquid bladder in the back with the hose that comes around. For those of you who are not distance runners, you may not be familiar, but you have like a rubber bladder that you carry your pre-mixed liquid on your back in a specialized pouch for in a running vest. And it has a hose that comes out the top of the backpack. It comes around, and you can just pull the hose, put it into your mouth, bite down. It's like a bite valve, and that allows the liquid to flow out. Anyway, when I'm outside on a long run, I like to get a sip of fuel, a 1 ounce sip of fuel every half mile. And the reason I like that is because it assures hydration on a regular basis, like a regular interval. And because the liquid contains fuel in it, in this case tailwind, it assures that you're getting a nice steady stream of fuel every half mile. Your body can count on it. And that helps to avoid blood sugar spikes or drops. And the reason I specifically like Tailwind, which is the name of the product that's mixed into my water here, is because it is a starch-based drink, much like UCAN or various other brands that are out there. And what that means is, because it's just not straight up sugar, it hits your stomach and it takes a little while to get into your gut and for that starch to be converted into simple sugars, which can then be utilized by your body for fuel. And the conversion time from starch into sugar, because it takes a little time, gives you a more even keel energy level. When you take in the straight simple sugars, you get this massive spike in energy, which, as everybody knows, when you take in any amount of sugar, spike is always followed by a giant dip, a big valley, and you feel horrible for a little while until you hit that sugar again. So with the starch-based fuels, it goes a long way to avoiding that. All right, everybody, still moving at 7.5 miles per hour. We are 1.39 miles into this 20-miler. Let me lean in. I think there's a new one. Paul, is this your longest ever treadmill run? No, sir. Though it is a rather lengthy run. Furthest, I've gone 24 miles on the treadmill on several occasions. Yeah, I know, tons of fun, right? A brilliant guy. There's a lot going on in here, right? Anyway, yeah, I've gone 20, 22, 24. I've gone 20 and 22 on a treadmill more times literally than I can count. I've gone 24 miles on the treadmill at least twice over the years. I've been training for marathons since fall of 2014. I began training for my first marathon. And that first marathon was the Charleston Marathon in South Carolina, which I ran in January of 2015. My first race ever, period, was in September of 2014. It was a half marathon. It was the first time I ever ran a race, first time I ever really sort of participated in anything with the running community. So I did well in that first half marathon. I actually came in 7th overall, which surprised me because I had no barometer, no way to know if I was a good runner or a bad runner, anything, because I'd spent all my time by myself. I hadn't been doing any research in the proper way to run, online or otherwise. I was just kind of doing my own thing on my original treadmill years ago. And so I went to that first race in Davidson, North Carolina. It was the Run for Green half marathon, which is an unbelievably hilly course. As a beginner, I hadn't given any thought to, hey, maybe I should do my first race on an easier course. I just kind of signed up because it was nearby, and I was sick of just running by myself with no goals. So I went and I ran it, came in 7th. I was the Masters winner of the race. Things went well. People encouraged me to keep running. And so with the elation that I felt from doing so well in that race, I decided, heck, I'm going after a marathon because the Charlotte Marathon was coming up in November of 2014, like 6 weeks later. For those of you who already know my marathon history, I apologize, but I got 2.5 hours to fill here, folks. And so I started training immediately thinking, okay, the longest run I've ever done to this point, this being September of 2014, is 14 miles. So I've got 6 weeks to be able to run 26.2. Again, the rocks in this head thought that sounded doable. So I set off to training. Each consecutive weekend, I went out for a long run. Went 14 miles, 16 miles, 18 miles, 20 miles, 22. The weekend before the race, I thought, uh-oh, I've only ever gone 22 miles. And a marathon, I'm pretty sure it's 26.2, so I better go out again and run even further. Yeah, I know. I know I'm a moron. You don't have to tell me that. But I knew nothing about training. Zero. And I was out on that 24-miler on the roads, not on a treadmill. And I popped my right IT band. Hurt like heck. Scared the cheese out of me. And went off to the doctor and found out that it was not a career-ending injury, thank goodness. They brought me back down to earth. And I spent like a month slowly rehabbing, looking for marathons that I could run that would give me, we just hit 2 miles, folks. I'm gonna bump it up to 7.6 miles per hour. I'm gonna try to bump it up to 7.6 miles per hour. There we go. And let me turn on the fan here, the front fan. I've got a big fan behind me, but I need a little help up front. It's starting to get hot. Anyway, so I found the Charleston Marathon, which is a mere like 3.5-hour trip from where I live, just north of Charlotte, North Carolina. And once again, started building my mileage. My goal at that race, my first marathon, was to try to run a 3-hour and 16-minute marathon, which would mean 730 miles for the entire way. And my long runs led me to believe that that was doable, you know, sort of on the, not bleeding edge, but, you know, sort of the, that point of comfortable discomfort. If you're a runner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was sometime in early January that I towed the line for the Charleston Marathon in 2015. Again, for those who are just tuning in, my first marathon. And it was shockingly difficult in those later miles. I remember getting to the 22-mile mark, and I was running with a very lovely woman who took mercy on me and ran with me, kind of guided me. I met her at mile 15, and we kind of ran together to the end. And I remember turning to her at mile 22 and saying, okay, every step from here on is further than I've ever been in a training run. I will be back. Enjoy the run. Cool, Misty. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you later. Hopefully we'll be on a different subject by the time we get back. We are at 2.31 miles, folks. Traveling at 7.6 miles per hour, still moving nice and easy. All right, so suffered through that Charleston Marathon, through those latter miles, crossed the finish line, and I ran that race in 3 hours and 26 minutes. I was ecstatic. It was painful beyond anything I'd imagined a marathon could be, or anything in life for that matter, which made it all the more sweet when I completed it. It was only after the race was over, when I was talking with other runners behind the finish line, that I found out there was something called the Boston Marathon. And that it was this sort of elite race that you had to qualify for. And it was sort of the mark of being a good runner. And it turns out running 3:26 at Charleston for my first marathon was, I missed the mark for qualifying for Boston for my age group by a mere minute. So without even knowing what the Boston Marathon was, I had almost qualified. So that pretty much cinched it for me. I knew at that point we were at 2.52 miles, moving at 7.6 miles an hour right now, nice and easy. I knew immediately that I had a goal. I was going to try to qualify for Boston at another marathon in spring of 2015. So I found the Tobacco Road Marathon in Cary, North Carolina, which was a fairly flat course. So I had just over 2 months to sort of get myself back into marathon shape. And I went to Cary, and I ran my second marathon in 3 hours and 16 minutes, right dead on what I planned to run, running 730 miles on average the whole way. And that qualified me for Boston with like 9 minutes to spare, 8 minutes to spare, something like that. And I was very proud, very happy. They actually gave out additional shirts, not just the race shirt for the Tobacco Road Marathon, but I got a Boston qualifier shirt. Went across the finish line, which I wore everywhere for a few months. I was so proud of myself. Yeesh. Anyway. So once I'd run that 3:16, I started upping my mileage. I'd run the first 2 marathons on about between 45 and 50 miles a week training. So I decided I was going to bump it up. And I started working towards another marathon in the fall of 2015. And I set my sights on the Peak to Creek Marathon in Jonas Ridge, North Carolina. It's a road race, but it's on like gravel roads in the mountains of North Carolina. So that race, the first 6 miles are very like big rolling hills, and then from mile like 6 to 14, you go bombing downhill on gravel roads through the Pisgah Forest, and it just beats the brains out of your quads. But and then the last 12 miles of the race are kind of a flat trudge. So if you haven't blown your quads out in the middle section, the race promises to give you a good time, as in, you know, like a good finishing time. And so that's why I signed up for that race, because I decided I was going to train peaking at, I believe, 70 miles per week leading up to that race. And coming up on 3 miles here, folks, right? Now, just hit 3 miles. Again, moving at 7.6 miles per hour, nice easy pace so far. I have not been fueling properly. And I was trying to go sub 3. I was trying to run my first 2:59 marathon, hoping that 70 miles, peaking at 70 miles a week in my training would get me there. Well, At that marathon, I ended up running a 3:03 and change. A huge leap forward in time from a 3:16 to a 3:03, but not quite enough to get me that sub 3. Folks, if you've got any questions, comments, feel free to drop them in. If you want me to change subjects, if you've got any questions about any of the training that I'm talking about, I'm more than happy to address those questions. So then after running that 3:03 in October of 2015, I set my sights on the Myrtle Beach Marathon in March of 2016. Again, this time instead of an 18-week training cycle, I did a 12-week training cycle. Again, just peaking at 70 miles during that training block, hoping that maybe I could just find some extra juice and slip in under 3 hours at Myrtle Beach. Well, I ran really hard, running at a pace faster than I should have during that race. And, the wall was waiting for me right there at mile 20, and my pace slowed way down as a result of overtaxing myself earlier. But nonetheless, even with the wall slowing me down significantly, I did still manage a 3:02. I think I bested my time at Peak to Creek by 70 seconds, 70 seconds. And I was real happy, but nonetheless, 2:59 was eluding me still. So in March of 2016, after finishing the Myrtle Beach Marathon, which was my 4th marathon, I set my eyes again on the Peak to Creek Marathon in the mountains of North Carolina, with all the rolling hills, the bombing downhill, and all that fun. Because I was convinced that with the proper running form going downhill for all those miles in the middle, I could preserve my quads. I had plenty of energy left at the end, final 12 miles, to maybe dip under 2:59 or hit 2:59 or better. So this time, I upped my training to where I was peaking at 80 miles per week. And I got to the Peak to Creek Marathon in 2016, October 2016. And I remember getting to the aid station at mile 22. And I slowed down to get a drink of Gatorade or water. And my muscles just didn't want to get going again. But I forced them to, and even with a big slowdown, folks, I still managed to run a 2:59 and change. So my first sub-3 marathon came at my 5th marathon, a little under 2 years after beginning my marathon running career. We're at 3.58 miles, still moving at 7.6 miles per hour. So far, it's feeling easy, thank goodness. I may have to stop for a restroom break soon, but we shall see. All right, so there it was, my first sub-3 marathon in my 5th marathon of all time. At that point, my next marathon was it was a full year, and I ran Peak to Creek again in 2017, October of 2017. And I believe my training cycle, which began in June of 2017, peaked at 107 miles per week, I believe. So I was up into the triple digits for training as a 48-year-old. I want to say 47 or 48. Anyway, stayed healthy through the 18-week training cycle. Ran Peak Creek again, and it paid off. I ran a 2:55 for my 6th marathon. Came back a year later in 2018. Didn't run another marathon until October 2018. I ran Peak Creek again. And the conditions there were, it was really muddy. And because it's like a gravel dirt road for 95% of that course, through the woods and down the mountain, the mud just made it bad news. I did still manage to run a 2:57, but my goal was to run a 2:51. So way off the mark. And that was due purely to the really nasty conditions on the course. My training, believe it or not, folks, in 2018 for that race was peaking at 120 miles. All right, folks, I'm going to take a little break here and run to the restroom. Forgive me. I'm going to wait till I get to 4 miles even. We're at 3.96 right now. Just in case this readout on the pro form goes blank, we'll know where we are. Okay, there's 4 miles. Pause it. We're at 31 minutes and 49 seconds. Be right back. Hey, Calvin, stop. Sorry. Calvin, baby boy. All right, sorry for the break, sorry for the noise. My dog sees another dog outside the window. All right, so 7.7 miles an hour now. We just passed mile 4. Calvin, that's tough. Apologies, folks. All right, so we just passed the 4-mile mark. We are now traveling at 7.7 miles per hour. Still what I would consider an easy pace. Get some fuel. I'm going to hit a gel, mile 5. Yeah, I'm drinking Tailwind, green tea buzz. So, yeah, my 6th marathon in October of 2018 was a bit of a washout. I was trying to run a 2:51 on a 120-mile peak training schedule. And interestingly, my training block for that marathon was done exclusively on a treadmill burps. You were asking earlier what was the furthest I'd ever gone on a treadmill. First time I ran a 24-mile long run was in my build-up to that October 2018 marathon in the mountains. And the longest run of that block was a 24-mile run which was the crowning glory of a 120-mile training week, all on the treadmill. So I know how to deal with the monotony of a treadmill. I don't like it, but I know how to deal with it. Let me lean in here. I think I see something new. You deserve a rest, Paul. Yeah, I'm feeling good. So far, I'm feeling fine, except for the old man bladder issues, of course. So, yeah, 120-mile-a-week peak, leading towards the 2018 Peak to Creek Marathon in the mountains of North Carolina. Only ran at 2:57 because of the muddy conditions. And you know, from mile 6 to mile 14 on that course is downhill, net downhill. And you can't maintain a normal stride in the mud, which means your knees and your quads take a beating, and you're trying not to fall the whole time. And so I came in 6 minutes slower than my intended finishing time. But you know, you can only do what you can do. You can't control the weather, you can't control the conditions of a race course. So my seventh marathon, I believe, was another full year again. And that again was the Peak to Creek Marathon in Jonas Ridge, North Carolina, which, by the way, just as an aside, folks, if you live in the Southeast and you're looking for an utterly gorgeous marathon, the Peak to Creek Marathon is it. It's a very small sort of boutique marathon, and that is because a good portion of that course is run inside the Pisgah National Forest in the Blue Ridge. And the race is run in late October. So the beauty of the fall leaves turning and the whole back half of the race, the dirt road that you're on parallels a river, and there's just, oh my God, calling that course beautiful is just doing it a disservice. It is stunningly beautiful. You know, a lot of the time, if you go there, I recommend you go there without the intention of trying to break a personal record. Just run that course for the sheer joy of being there. Go slow. The sights are incredible. There are places where you get a break in the trees and you realize you're right on a mountain ridge and you can see for 50 miles. And it's just unbelievable. Imagine all the yellows and the oranges and the reds and the purples of the trees as far as you literally can see. And, you know, when you're trying to run fast, like, you know, I always am when I'm racing, there comes a point where you stop appreciating that beauty just because of the pain you're in. But, yeah. So I came back in 2019, and the lessons that I learned from that 120-mile-a-week training cycle the previous year taught me that more is not necessarily always better. So I cut my training back to peaking at 110 miles per week in 2019. And concentrating more on speed than just trying to increase distance and hoping that would give me what I needed to PR. My PR at the time, again, was from 2 years earlier when I ran at 2:55 at Peak to Creek. So I still had my mind set to try to run a 2:51. So in 2019, I returned to a Peach Creek Marathon for fourth time. I think. And I ran, what did I run? 250. 252? No, I ran, that may have been the one where no, I'm all confused. Anyway, I ran 253 maybe. Anyway. After that, I decided I was going to go to Myrtle Beach again in okay, I'm sorry. My seventh marathon was Myrtle Beach for a second time, and I DNF'd that race. I was just, the weather was bad, it was cold, it was super windy. This was March of 2019. And for that entire training block, just past 5 miles, folks, if you love it. Moving at 7.7 miles per hour, still quite easy pace. Wellness with Frugal Mama. Rock on. Thank you for watching. So I returned to Myrtle Beach in March of 2019, trying to best my PR. The training block, my heart was not in it. I just felt wiped out. I just run that 257 like 4 or 5 months earlier, Peak to Creek. I remember my weight was way up. Didn't even get my weight like lower than like 147, 148 pounds, which for a little guy like me, I'm only 5'7". That's a lot of weight to carry around if you're trying to run 26.2 miles. And I DNF'd that race. The conditions, weather-wise, were horrible. At mile 9, I could feel my left ankle and calf pulling really hard. It felt like something popped at mile 9. So I actually walked from mile like 9.5 to mile 12, which luckily enough was where my hotel was on Ocean Boulevard in Myrtle Beach. So I just walked off the course, went upstairs, got a shower, and me and the family went to the original Benjamin's, which, if you're not in the know, is a rather originally famous restaurant, seafood restaurant there in Myrtle Beach. And man, we strapped on the feed bag. And I had way more fun at the original Benjamin's than I did on the marathon course. I feel like emotionally and physically I pushed myself too far. And that DNF was, I'm not proud of it. It's the only DNF I have in a marathon. But when I walked off the course, I was like, all right, let's go have some fun with the family, But so with that, I was riding a series of lows during 2018 and early 2019, and I decided after like 3 months of just kind of kicking around and still running and not pushing myself, so the bug to run well, to get fast and push my limits, kind of came back. My love of running returned during the spring and summer of 2019. So I signed up again for my 5th Peak to Creek Marathon, which was going to be my 9th marathon at this point. And having learned from so many mistakes in the past year, I decided I was going to peak at 110 miles. And I ran, probably 2/3 of my training runs on the roads, but used the treadmill on easy runs at Planet Fitness at the time. And had the fire back in my belly. And I decided again, I was going to take another crack at a 2:51 marathon. And it was a great training cycle. And in October of 2019, I set what is still my marathon PR of 2 hours, 52 minutes, and 24 seconds. I believe that's the time that I've got posted in Strava as my best. Somebody can double check that. Pretty sure it was a 2:52.24. And while it was not 2:51, it was a huge leap forward for me from my 2:55 former best. So I was elated, of course. I was on a high. I still had the hunger to try to hit that 2:51. So I signed up for the March 2020 Tobacco Road Marathon. Had a great 12-week training block leading up to it. And I was convinced on that flatter course, on real, more well-groomed roads, that I'd be able to shave a minute off my best. We're at 5.8 miles, cruising at 7.7 miles an hour. And my fueling on this run, I'm missing the mark. I'm not keeping up with a sip every half mile. Hoping I don't pay the price for that in the later miles. Anyway, so I started training towards the Tobacco Road Marathon in March of 2020. "48 hours before the start line, before the gun was supposed to go off, a mass email went out to me and all of the other runners that the marathon was canceled for some wacky thing called COVID. And if I had hair, I would have been tearing it out of my head. My initial reaction, of course, was that I'd been robbed. Kirsten, what's going on? Great job, Paul. Thank you, Kirsten. The only reason I'm strong enough to do this is because I cross-train with you. So thank you so much. If anybody doesn't know who Kirsten Quickbit is, look her up on YouTube. She is the cross-training guru. And I say cross-training from a runner's perspective. She's all about stretching, strength training, cardio, you name it. She's certified in every which way, and she will steer you in the right direction to getting fit. I'm very proud to call Kirsten a friend. Go check her out. Go get subscribed. And that's true of everybody who's been on this chat. Misty is awesome. I love watching her pursue her fitness goals. Michael Sanderson, again, from earlier. Rock dude. And there are other people that I'm forgetting. But everybody look through the chat. Amazing runners in this group. So where was I? Yeah, Tobacco Road 2020 in March. Got called off 48 hours before the start gun went off. But you know, I did my research, realized that this COVID thing was nothing to be toyed with. But we just passed 6 miles. We're at 6.17 miles. So I'm upping the speed to 7.8 miles per hour now. We'll stay there until 8 miles has gone by. So at that point, I had started my YouTube channel in February of 2020 because I wanted to document my Tobacco Road marathon training and race, and then it was gone. So, just like everybody else out there, my heart was broken for a little while. But then I started YouTube. I got to know this amazing community. Some of you I've gotten to know very recently. Some people have been around since the beginning of my channel. I love you all, in all truth. You have no idea how much motivation and inspiration comes from just talking back and forth with you guys, watching your videos, sharing thoughts, ideas. Michael Sanderson, thank you. You rock. Michael is another amazing runner from over in the UK. Watching him train always inspires me. Go check him out. So there it is. Since October 2019, when I ran my 252.24, I've been waiting for COVID to end so the races would open up again. And in August of 2021, this past August, got news that some races, all across the world were opening up again. And I signed myself up for the Kiowa Island Marathon in South Carolina, which took place on December 11th of 2021. I went through an 18-week training block. Which went really, really well. There's a whole series on my YouTube channel with a dedicated playlist. 6.55 miles now. Moving at 7.8 miles per hour. And that series is called 245 Marathon at 52. 245 Marathon at 52 years old. And that was a really solid training block. But race day at Kiowa was 70 degrees, 90% humidity on December 11th. A freak hot day. And my dreams of running at 245 were dashed. I ended up running a 258, which is still a good time. I understand that. And I'm not poo-pooing it. I was just disappointed because I really felt like I was physically and mentally ready to run 245, or at least get close. At least break into the 240s. But I have to admit, it was nice just to run again. Race again, I should say. And enjoyed the experience. Everything except for the 4.5-hour drive home after the race. Which was kind of rough. With post-marathon legs seizing up. Being getting so sick from all of the fuels and gels and stuff that I couldn't really eat. But I made it home, and about a week later, right after Christmas, after a week of not running, I started training again, and almost immediately got sick. And though I did 2 rapid COVID tests that turned out negative, I'm not convinced that I had COVID, because I felt rotten, and it hung on for like 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of the current training cycle that I'm in right now, I ran while I was sick. I encourage you to go back to the first couple of episodes of my 245 Marathon Revenge series to watch that. And I'm about halfway through this 12-week training cycle now, as I build towards my 11th marathon, which again will be the Tobacco Road Marathon in Cary, North Carolina on March 20th, 2022. I'm trying to run a 245 again, assuming we get decent weather this time, and assuming I'm not utterly burned out. You know, this is a down week. This is the last run of the down week for me, down mileage week, that is. So I'm not pushing my speed, just trying to knock out the miles so that I feel fresh going into next week, which will be another 80 mile week for me. I also did some weird stuff this week. I shifted my track day to Tuesday because I have to be in the office in the city on Wednesdays and Thursdays now, so I like having a track day on the day when I work from home. And then the reason I'm running my long run today on a Saturday, because going forward throughout the rest of this training block, that'll be my long run day as well, so that I get Sunday and Monday to recover from the long run before I have to hit the track again. Because this week, last week I did my long run, 22 miler on Sunday, and then I hit the track on Tuesday, and man, was it a mess. I was slow, I faded big time at the end. It was horrible. So I guess at my age, 52 years old, coming up on 53 in May, my body just can't do that. 1 day rest and then hit the track. It's beyond me, I think, at this point. Unless I find some better nutritional plan or something like that. All right, folks, we're at 7.21 miles, moving at 7.8 miles per hour. So far, I'm feeling good. So there, let me see what Mike said. How does your diet change with your increased mileage each week? Well, Michael, I'll tell you what. In this new series of mine, my training blog series for this training blog, I've been sharing every single thing that I eat every day. I put everything into MyFitnessPal, the tracking app, and then I share it in my weekly blog. But the overall trend, I would have to say, in order to make sure I'm getting the nutrients that I need to try to perform, it needs the biggest thing in my mind, the easiest way to deliver maximum vitamins and nutrients is through dark leafy greens. They are just so packed tight with everything your body needs. And for me, that means kale, it means spinach, it means collard greens. And I also have powdered spirulina, which I mix into water or almond milk, whatever. because that's just like a B12 and various other nutrients like powerhouse. And I do that daily. But my downfall, Michael, as far as what's getting in my way, is sweets. When I was building towards the Kiowa Island Marathon with that 18-week block, I reined in my snacking, and I hit my weight goal of 138 high for my 138 pounds for my race weight. But here in this short cycle, which I'm now halfway through, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like I eat dinner and my willpower just, unfortunately, seems to just melt away. All right, folks. We're 7.58 miles into this run. I haven't gelled yet. We get a sip of Tailwind and get a Cliff Jelly. I'm way past where I wanted to be when I'm just not paying enough attention to my fueling. Sorry. So, Michael, the long and short of it is that I think I'm doing the right things with eating healthy foods. Lean, proteins, chicken, lots of fish, especially at lunchtime. Tuna is my friend, and chicken is my friend at dinner time. And sorry if you're a vegan or vegetarian. It doesn't sound very appealing. But I am, if you look at my eating logs, you'll know that I'm probably maybe 85% vegetarian as it is. I'm not a big meat guy. 7.75 miles, folks. If I could find a way, to replace these little Debbie cakes and the brownies and the cookies with like fruit in the later hours of the day, I think I'd be in far better shape, far lighter already than I already am. As I said at the top of this live stream, my intention was to weigh in at 140 pounds flat on February 1st. Here we are on whatever it is, the date, the 5th, and I weigh 142 pounds as of this morning. So I'm behind schedule. I want to weigh in at 135 on a race day. But I really want to be at 135 by March 1st, so that I'm not scrambling as we approach race day. I don't want to still be dieting when I'm in my taper. Way to go, Paul, says Misty. Glad you're back. Healthful choices. Fire. Thank you. 7.93 miles into this odyssey. So there you have it. I'm working towards the Tobacco Road Marathon on March 20th, hoping to run 2:45. Just to lay it out there, folks, for this series, I've been sharing everything, all the other details of my nutrition, my eating, the days that go good, the days that go bad. I share it all. Don't want to sugarcoat anything. We just hit 8 miles. I'm bumping up the speed to 7.9 miles per hour. Get another drink. And the last couple of track workouts, I'm going to speak truthfully, have not looked great. I'm hoping after this down mileage week, things kind of pop back. I'm hoping that even though next week is going to be an 80-mile week, that I start to see some better times at the track. And I hope when I run my middle long run next Thursday, that I've got enough juice that, that's going to be a 15-mile middle long run next Thursday night. I'm hoping that in the middle miles, I can crank up the pace into the high 6 mid-mile range. Sorry, squeezing this goo and it's flying all over the place. It's not a goo. It's a strawberry cliff gel. So, I feel like I've been trying to readjust this training cycle on the fly. This week, I was trying to add in an extra hard workout. I don't mean it's extra hard. I mean, add in an extra hard day. And that idea came crashing down on Tuesday when my track performance was just not cool. So the only thing I can end up doing over the coming 4 or 5 weeks of hard training is basically I've just shifted everything back a day so that my speed days are Tuesdays, my long runs will be Saturdays, but the weekly structure will remain the same. I need to see some positive results in order to put that fire back in my belly. Because as you all know, the mental attitude that you take into a training block, in my opinion, is far more important than your physical abilities. Because even if you're in great shape, if you don't have that mentality of wanting to push yourself, wanting to stay on the edge, then you don't stay on the edge. You get comfortable, you get complacent, you get the miles done, but you're not pushing your body to new plateaus. Keep in mind, again, for anybody joining later in this live stream who didn't see the beginning, this is a 20-mile long run. At the end of a down mileage week, I will only run, depending on how I feel tomorrow and how far I go as a recovery run. This week, as a down week, I will only total anywhere between 60 and 64 miles. Any good marathon plan will have you build your mileage for 3 weeks, 4 weeks max, and then you get a down week where you drop the total mileage. You retain the intensity on the hard days, but you don't do as much of the intensity. The idea is that you're giving your body a chance to recharge. Then when you come back, if you rested well enough, there is a phenomenon called supercompensation, where once you start pushing your body again, you don't just return to the levels that you were at before the rest week, but you actually reach a new plateau. So you go push, 3 weeks in a row, give yourself a little rest, supercompensate, and the first or the second week, when you come back to high mileage, high intensity, you should start to notice in your harder workouts that you're hitting new faster times, or that you're hitting the same times with far less perceived effort. In a nutshell, that's supercompensation. And if you can keep that pattern up week 1 hard, week 2 harder, week 3 harder, take a rest. Repeat that pattern. It's like you're slowly climbing a mountain. You're reaching peak fitness. Hopefully, right as you begin your taper, which if you are a less experienced marathoner or distance runner, running any distance race, but especially for the marathon, newer marathoners, we're at 8.81 miles. For you newer marathoners, an ideal taper is usually about 3 weeks. I like a 3-week taper, depending on how hard I push myself. The harder I push myself, the more I appreciate having 3 weeks of tapering down before race day. Misty says, interesting. I'm glad somebody's finding this interesting. Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm just talking to myself, and none of this is new to anybody. But Misty, I'm talking to you now. Now, a taper, for those of you who have heard the term, and you know, generally speaking, in general terms, a taper before a race is the rest period, so that your body gets, just like those down weeks in the middle of your training block, the taper is kind of an extended downtime, so that your body can recharge, and so that you can hit that start line juiced up, your muscles are rested, you feel like you can take on the world. Just hit 9 miles, folks. And you're ready for a peak performance at your race. So, now when you go into your taper, whether it's 3 weeks before your race or 2 weeks before your race and you're as a more experienced marathoner, that doesn't mean you hit taper day 1 and you stop doing stuff. You don't just go from 100 miles an hour to 0. Basically, the taper, like, say like in my case, when I hit my taper in 5 weeks, that last hard week will be anywhere from 80 to 85 miles with tons of intensity, tons of hard workouts during that week. And when I hit my taper, there will be a long run, probably a 22-mile long run, and then the next day, on Sunday, I begin my taper. So if I peaked out, say, just for the sake of making this easy, just understand, let's say I peaked at 80 miles for that last hard week. In the first week of the taper, I will cut down my overall mileage so that I'm probably running a maximum of anywhere from like 55 to 60 miles. I'm cutting like a full third off of my total mileage from my peak. I like listening and learning. Cool. Misty, that's what Kirsten says about you, that you're just so awesome because you're always absorbing, you're always learning. That's the best kind of person to be. And that's why I love your channel, because when I listen to your talks, Misty, when you share your thoughts and your training progress, that comes through loud and clear. You're very inspirational. And everybody, if you want to see somebody pushing hard to get healthier and healthier and to share everything they learn as they learn it, go over to your pal Misty on YouTube. She rocks. She's become a regular part of my viewing because she keeps me pumped up. Doesn't matter what level of fitness you're at. You shouldn't just be looking to people who could smoke you at whatever you're given fitness discipline is for inspiration. People of all levels can keep you inspired and motivated. And Misty's enthusiasm for learning and for getting better is infectious. So thank you, Misty, for keeping me rocking and rolling. Yes, Kirsten, you were right. Misty is amazing. And I'm dripping. Let me finish this gel, because there's more getting on the treadmill belt than it's getting in me. All right. We are about at 9.5 miles right now. Almost halfway. And I just upped speed to 8 miles per hour. So those of you not in the know, 8 miles per hour equals 1 mile every 7 minutes and 30 seconds. This is still well within my aerobic wheelhouse. If I'm not overly tired or dehydrated, this is not a challenging speed at all. Now, if my muscles are blown out from a weights workout, or I haven't had enough sleep, or I've been eating tons of garbage, as I'm known to do, then 8 miles an hour can be very challenging. But, you know, so far so good. So far I'm feeling fine. Now, so yeah, look anywhere and everywhere for your inspiration, folks. Misty keeps me fired up. Kirsten keeps me fired up with her super positive attitude, as well as her incredible depth of knowledge of fitness. Any of you who watch my weekly vlogs, towards the end of each vlog, I don't talk about just my daily runs, but I talk about the bigger picture of the training cycle, and I talk about my nutrition. I talk about my cross training, and I talk about my free weights, my lifting, which I'm happy to say in the last 3 weeks has finally become more consistent again. I've been lifting twice a week. And anyway, I almost always make reference to a dedicated video that's on my channel that details all the exercises that I do for my daily core routine. It's only a few minutes long, and I do it every day. And I don't talk about the numbers of each exercise that I do personally, because that's not helpful to you. But I do at least talk a little bit about sort of the recommended number of sets and number of reps that I would do if I was just getting started. And I talk about, you know, you probably want to start off doing it 3 times a week and slowly build up the frequency until, like me, you're doing it first thing every day as soon as you roll out of bed. I like doing that because it guarantees strong core, strong hips for me. And it's done before I'm even fully awake, before the world has a chance to get to me and find distractions. It only takes like 20 minutes, 25 tops if I take it slow. Now we're about to hit 10 miles. Continue my talk about the importance of core. 10 miles, we're halfway done. And I'm upping the speed to 8.1 miles per hour. Get a drink in before I forget. All right. So, Misty says Kirsten is so smart. Love the live with the distance runners, says Misty. Oh, I assume you're referring Thursday night. I participated on my channel this time in another group runner talk, which is a series once a month. Me and 3 other runners, Susie from I Run Things, Heather from Running Geek Girl, excuse me, and Brian from Rosser Runs. We all get together and we all call ourselves the Masters of YouTube. And the first Thursday of each month, 7 p.m., we do kind of a round robin. This month I hosted, next month Susie will host, and on around in the circle we go. And it's kind of a cool little group. First of all, let me address the title. Masters of YouTube may sound a little bit arrogant. We don't see ourselves as the masters of YouTube. It's a play on words, because we're all distance runners, and we're all 40 years old or older. And in the running world, if you're 40 years old or older, you are known, you are labeled a master's runner. Now, if you're over 50, like me, the official title is actually Grand Master. That's not as well known. So, hey, maybe I'm Grandmaster Flash. Maybe I'll start rapping. That'll be the day. Oh, I love the Grandmaster Flash. He's in no danger from me for taking his job. If you don't know who Grandmaster Flash is, open up a new tab on YouTube. Check it out. Yes, that one says Mr. Cool. Grandmaster Paul. Grandmaster P. All right. The next song I release will have to do some rapping. Maybe I'll sample some of the talking from this live stream. Set it to a funky hip hop beat. There we go. Man, how's that for a tangent? All right. We're just about at 10.5 miles now, moving at 8.1 miles per hour currently. We'll maintain that speed until mile 12. We'll crank it up a little more. All right, folks, so I've been through my marathon running history in excruciating detail. For those of you who stuck around, I've done it. I've done a detailed breakdown of my full running and racing history in a video that I did. It was like one of my first 3 videos on my channel way back in early 2020. If you're interested in watching that, I probably do a better job in that video than I did here while running. But I think that subject is well covered at this point. As far as a quick background of who I am as a runner, what got me started, etc. I'll try to do this quickly because I've told this story not only in my own videos, but when I've guested on other people's live streams and been interviewed here, there, and yonder. But 10 years ago, when I was 42 years old, is when I began running distance again. I had run cross country in 9th grade in high school. Didn't really care for it. And I put it away for, 20-something years. Then when I was 42, I was at the office one day. I was 40 pounds overweight. My doctor told me I was pre-diabetic. And I started to feel uncomfortable tightness in my chest when I was working. And I decided it was time to change. Well, the choice was still mine. So I started walking with a group of friends at work, coworkers, and every lunchtime we'd go out and walk like 3 miles. And that, combined with sort of being more mindful of what I was eating, cutting back on the pasta dinners and all that kind of stuff. Over the course of 9 months, in 2012, I guess, I managed to drop 30 of those 40 extra pounds I was carrying. And I left the office one day, and just as like a wild hare, I decided I was going to try to run to my car, which was parked probably a third of a mile away from my office building, just to see if I could do it, even though I was wearing like penny loafers and, you know, Dockers and a button-down shirt, yada yada, carrying a briefcase with my laptop. And I made it to the car, and it was like late summer, so I was sweating through my clothes, and I ran slow, but I ran. Touched my car, and I'm not scared to tell you that I actually got a little teary, because I realized that there was maybe hope for my future, that maybe I could turn things around and get healthy before things got really bad. We just passed 11 miles, folks. Let me feel. So, get into my car. Within a couple of weeks of that day, a friend of my wife decided she was selling her used treadmill because she wanted to run exclusively outside. So I bought it, brought it home, spent a year and a half running on that treadmill. Started off running at 5 miles an hour, 3 days a week, 20 minutes a day. And slowly built my speed. The first week, I ran all 3 runs at 5 miles an hour. The second week, I ran all 3 runs at 5.1 miles an hour. The next week, 5.2, etc., etc. Not only was I building my speed slowly but surely, but I began increasing the number of days I ran to 4 and then 5. And after a year of running only, and I mean purely exclusively on my first treadmill, never outside, because I was scared the neighbors would see me and laugh, and I would be the subject of unwanted ridicule. I was not confident at all, folks. But I built my speed, I built my distance, and I built the number of days that I was running on that treadmill. Until a year later, I was running 6 days a week. And I was running every run at like 8 to 8.5 miles an hour. And trying to push even beyond that. And it was torture, folks, because I was running every run hard. Those were hard workouts for me at the time. But the obsessive parts of my brain made me keep it up. And I pushed myself until I reached kind of a breaking point. I just couldn't stand staring at the wall or just watching YouTube or just listening to podcasts anymore. I finally reached the point where I was like, you know what? If there are any neighbors out there who are going to make fun of me, if there's anybody out there with a negative word to say, that's more their problem than it is mine. 11.5 miles, folks. Running at 8.1 miles per hour right now. I've reached a point of confidence, self-confidence, where I started to let go of that fear of what other people might think or say. And I took to the streets. And if you were listening earlier to when I was detailing my marathon running history and how I got started with a half marathon in September of 2014, I left my treadmill exclusive runs and took to the streets in the spring of 2014. So it wasn't long after I started running out in public that I discovered this half marathon in the next town over. So I gathered up all the guts I had and I signed myself up for that race. And as you know, I ended up placing 7th overall. I won the Masters title in that race. And I created a racing and running monster within myself. Step outside your comfort zone. Didn't worry about the rock on mistake. You've already got the key to a brighter and better future. If you're confident enough to just go for it. And the fact that you have a YouTube channel and you're sharing everything about your journey, that rules. It took me a long time to reach that point. So there it was. That's sort of my running history, my marathon racing history. Now, before I go off on a long-term tangent, which will hopefully get us through the rest of this run, start talking about music and stuff, my other big passion and interest in life. Does anybody have any questions about running? Whether you're building towards your first 5K, trying to start running, period. You know, I am an RRCA certified running coach, as well as a crazy marathon runner. So happy to answer any questions you may have. Today, by the way, I'm wearing for shoes. I'm wearing my Saucony Endorphin Speeds. It's a great zippy training shoe. They've already got like 450 miles on them. So they're not as peppy as they used to be. But I figured on the treadmill, with the extra cushioning you get from the treadmill, it'd be good enough. I love them. My racing shoe of choice is the Saucony Endorphin Pro, which is the carbon plate version of this training shoe that I'm wearing. Love that shoe. Just hit 12 miles, folks. Going up to 8.2 miles per hour. Maybe strange, but what about socks? Anything important about them? Yes. Socks matter. Generally speaking, as a runner, in the summertime you want thin socks. In the winter you want thicker socks. In the winter, you can get away with wool socks because wool has a natural wicking ability, so it will still keep your toes dry and your feet dry, which is important because if your feet get too hot and sweaty, then any sliding around inside your shoe that may happen will, of course, suddenly you've got blisters. And whether you're a runner or not, you don't want blisters. Nobody needs the extra pain, etc., etc. Which is why you also want to invest in a good quality pair of running shoes, not just the stuff you get from, Kohl's or Belk's or JCPenney or whatever. Go to a real running store and get professionally fitted. Don't be intimidated. Most of their customers are new runners. And they know all about how to get the proper shoe on your foot, to make sure you're not pronating, to make sure if you're landing on your heels, that you get the protection you need, etc., etc. But back to the subject at hand, Misty. Socks. In the wintertime, wool socks can work if you're into the whole sort of natural fiber thing. But my favorite socks, as of now, for the past year, have been from a company called SLS3. They are like a company who makes triathlon gear, and they've got like thin, very thin material socks that put up with a lot of abuse. You can put hundreds and hundreds of miles on them, and they just don't give up. And the nice thing about them, beyond being rough and tumble socks that I put up with a lot of use, is that they're moisture wicking. They'll pull that sweat off of your feet and push it out into the shoe, where it can then evaporate into the air. That's the biggest thing. There are all kinds of great brands out there, Bombas, blah, 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 blah. But SLS3 is my favorite. 12.5 miles works. So, if you're gonna have a breathable, sweat-wicking sock, you gotta make sure you got a quality shoe that can also let your feet breathe while holding them securely in place and protecting you with a good midsole. Just go to a running store. Especially if you're a new runner, a new pair of running shoes are going to last you a long time. And you can start your running career with the confidence that you've got the best shoe for you on your feet. Now, with that said, folks, my other big passion in life, since I was 8 years old, has been music. I was born in New York City, in Queens, Jackson Heights. But when I was 3 years old, we moved upstate to Westchester County, in the suburbs, and just outside of Peekskill in New Yorktown Heights, New York. And most of my friends who lived near me, not my school friends, but the ones who lived on my street, were older than me. So even when I was 7, 8 years old, I was constantly exposed to the cool stuff, all the cool music from the mid-70s, late 70s that my older friends were listening to. So I got to know the Cars, the Knack, the Police, Pink Floyd, Yes, Steely Dan, oh boy, you name it. The Beatles, of course, the Rolling Stones, and so I was buying records from the time I was like 8 years old and absorbing the tracks. And of course, being a child of the 70s, never mind, no such thing as internet or computers. This was pre-MTV. Yeah, Misty, if you're looking at SLS3 socks, they constantly have like package bundle deals that you can get like 5 or 6 pairs in a bundle for an amazing deal. That's how I always buy them, like once a year. I buy like 10 pairs in one big bundle. And I get like Dayglow green, and watermelon pink, orange, red, all kinds of really cool eye-popping colors. You know, that's one of the other super cool things about being a runner, is you get to wear all these ridiculous, garish colors. We just passed mile 13 books. And nobody looks sideways at you, as long as you're running. You know, where else could you get away with, you know, like pink lenses on your sunglasses, Dayglow yellow shirts, bright orange calf sleeves, and like purple shoes, without somebody thinking you're utterly colorblind and in need of some help. Which maybe I am in need of help, I'm sure I am, clinically speaking. But I love the bright colors. Now that I'm a runner, now that I'm out there in public, now that I'm sharing my journey, it doesn't bother me to attract a little attention to myself with the fun colors and the fun clothes. Celebrate, have fun, and encourage others. Howdy, Derek. Sorry, I must have missed somebody. Stretch yourself. Says, love this session. Thank you. Doing my best. Starting to feel the miles a little bit now. 13.25 miles in, moving at 8.2 miles per hour. We'll bump it up in another 3/4 of a mile. I've just about exhausted my tailwind here, which means I'll be moving on to the Gatorade. I'll probably hit another gel at mile 14. Anyway, so yeah, I was a young kid in the mid to late 70s, 8 years old. All my older friends were exposing me to the cool rock music of the day. You know, I was 8 years old, and I was solidly behind the disco sucks movement. Of course, now as an adult, I can't get enough Donna Summer, Bee Gees, and Chic, and all the incredible powerhouses of dance music from the 70s. It's amazing to me. This is free-flowing thoughts from at this point, folks. Um, Back in the 70s when disco came out, the rock and rollers hated it so much because disco was seen as this formulaic, paint by numbers sort of genre of pop music that didn't have any creativity. It was basically, the rationale was, oh, disco. You just put your drum machine or tell your drummer to drum at 128 beats a minute, which was thought to be the perfect dance tempo. So all the big hits, from I Will Survive on down the line, were all 128 beats per minute. But just because you set constraints on yourself in music doesn't mean that there is tons of room, that there isn't tons of room for creativity. In fact, as a musician myself, if you go into a songwriting session with no constraints, just saying, okay, where do I start? I can do anything. That's an easier way to writer's block than anything else. Whereas if you set yourself some limits, okay, I'm going to write in this style. I want my lyrics to be about or in this style. I want to make sure X and Y. And you put yourself in a little box. It's a lot easier to get things done because you're not just sort of frozen by the infinite universe of possibilities. You know what you got to do, and then you just do it. Some people think that's not creative, and to bring it back around, that was the thinking in the 70s when it came to disco. Oh my God. You just play a little shuffle groove, stay on the hi-hat at 120 beats a minute, 128 beats a minute, and that's disco. Put a string section in the background, and you got yourself a hit. That's not music, disco sucks. Yeah, you want to say that? Bull. Pick any disco song from the 70s and compare it. This is where you'll know I'm an old man, a crotchety old dude. Compare any disco hit to the music that comes out today, where you basically turn on a drum machine. And you don't even have to rhyme or keep to a rhythm. And I think it's pretty plain to see that the craftsmanship back then was incredible. Whether you're talking about rock and roll or disco, or mellow gold from AM radio stations. It's all pretty incredible. I love sunglasses. All right, throw them on, you and me both. So, yeah, while I loved disco after the fact, once I became more of an adult, from when I was a kid, straight up to this very moment, the core of what I love musically is sort of album-oriented rock. My favorite bands, number one without a doubt, I don't care if it's cliche, the Beatles. They created, by far, the most towering edifice of incredible music. In 7 years, just past 14 miles, folks, I got up the speed to 8.3 miles per hour. Get a drink and get a gel. So speaking of the Beatles, folks, so Sorry, let me get this open and get a hit off this, otherwise these last 6 miles are going to be really bad. All right, so the Beatles. Even though John and Paul and George pretty much got together and started writing music as the Quarrymen and all that stuff back in the late 50s, they became the Silver Beatles, and then the Beatles started having hits in England by like 62, 63, after they came back from Hamburg, where they became sort of house musicians at the local dives there in Germany, and played for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and became one heck of a tight, incredible rock and roll band back in the early 60s. And so by the time they got back to England and did manage to secure a record deal and bring on Ringo, they were already, even though they were all in their early 20s, they were incredible musicians, super tight. And, you know, when I was younger, in my teens and my early 20s, I was kind of the guy who appreciated the Beatles from Rubber Soul onwards, when their music started to get more complex and their lyrics started to get a little more esoteric. But now, as an older guy, I love the whole. Misty says, love, love, love the Beatles. FOD Runner. Dude, Andy, thank you for being here. Let's go, Paul. I can't watch for long. It's dinner time. Okay. Something about dedication, 20 miles. Appreciate it, sir. My old man eyes are having trouble reading the long comment. But you have no idea how much I appreciate you stopping by, Andy. Anybody who doesn't know Andy Rayner, the FOD Runner. FOD stands for Forest of Dean, which is a beautiful area of England. Andy has been a YouTuber, a running YouTuber, for what, 5, 6 years, Andy? And as thousands and thousands of other runners know, Andy is awesome because he does shoe reviews and gives you brutally honest shoe reviews. Sugarcoats nothing. He is also great because he takes you week by week through his training, the highs and the lows. I know Andy is currently coming back from a calf injury, I believe, which sidelined him in the middle of a training block. And he's finally starting to feel like he can start training hard again. And watching him push hard and watching him come back and never give up has kept me inspired for so long, and continues to, and will continue to into the future. So to see Andy stop by my channel just makes me feel really, really good inside. Thank you. So Misty says, love, love, love the Beatles. Rock on. So yeah, as I believe I was saying, now as an older adult, I even appreciate the early catalog of the Beatles. I Want to Hold Your Hand, Help, all that stuff. Because when you analyze that music, even though it sounds simple, even though the lyrics could be a little trite, you know, at the time, they were a new band. They needed to attract a big audience. They needed to be successful. financially in order to stay with the record label. So of course the demographic they were after was going to be the 12-year-old girl with the disposable income who was going to buy the new 45 record every time it came out. But when you go in as a musician and analyze what they were doing, the arrangements of the bass and the guitar parts, and the way they floated the melodies over top of those harmonies, even as a 52-year-old, here I am, still looking at the stuff they did with incredible wonder. I mean, John and Paul, and later in their career, George, were really pushing the limits of what you could do in pop music. And that's why I love the Beatles. They never stopped doing that. 15 miles. 5 to go, folks. You know, everybody always points to Sgt. Pepper as sort of like their pinnacle, which is a good album, of course. But for me, my 2 favorite Beatles albums are the soundtrack for Magical Mystery Tour, and then, of course, Abbey Road. With Abbey Road, even though it was recorded as sort of like their final goodbye, and they recorded that whole album knowing that it was over, as incredible as that band was, as writers and musicians, with Abbey Road, the level of songmanship, the production value was unbelievable. It's like, when you listen to that album, just the sound of that album, from a production standpoint, what George Martin was doing with them was absolutely incredible. Like, you can hear it. Listen to any Beatles record, break out Revolver, and listen to the way the guitars sound and the drums sound on that record. You know, the guitars are like that Rickenbacker, really nasally, high-end, jangly tone, which is cute, but it's not a great sound. The songwriting, again, don't confuse that with the songwriting, their incredible abilities. I'm just talking purely about the way things sound. The Beatles didn't have the best guitar sounds until you get into Abbey Road. And it's like you can hear it. It's almost like Abbey Road introduced the 70s. It's like the jangly pop tunage was gone. It's like they were saying, okay, it's a new decade. We're upping the game. The Beatles may be over, but before we walk out the door, we're going to set a new standard. And man, did they ever. You know, by the time the Beatles called it quits in 1970, they had been toppled from the #1 spot on the radio charts by another band who was a stunning powerhouse, who didn't really fully come into their own until later in the 70s. And that band, no, I'm not talking about the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones were always kind of in the shadow of the Beatles, trying to keep up with the Beatles. But by 1970, the band that knocked the Beatles off the top position was none other than Led Zeppelin. Now, when I was a teenager, I liked one or two Zeppelin songs, but generally speaking, I was not a fan of the band. I'm on miles to right. We just hit 15 and a half. So yeah, as a teenager, I was not the biggest fan of Zeppelin. And it had nothing to do with the band. This was just me being a stupid teenager. In the mid-'80s, when I was a high schooler, the people listening to Zeppelin were kind of like the stoner kids. And I was this shy, sort of collegiate dude. I was no what's the word I'm looking for? I was not innocent. I had my fair share of fun. Use your imagination. But, Zeppelin, I kind of thought of Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Motorhead, and Iron Maiden in the same sort of thing. That's the same thing. Just this loud, dumb guy music. Boy, the only one who was dumb was me. The older I get, the more I appreciate Led Zeppelin. They came out of the gate. I shouldn't even say they came out of the gate. They blew up the gate. They knocked down the gate and said hello. From here on out, music will be different. And we'll be telling you what it's going to be like. Mihai! Go, 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 Paul! Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining me. Mihai, go run. Another wonderful YouTube channel. Coming from Eastern Europe. I love your videos, sir. You're always inspirational. For those of you who don't know Mihai, he puts out videos every week with very inspiring messages. And very recently, he has been confident enough not to use a computer voiceover to narrate his videos. I guess because his abilities with English, he may have thought, were not good enough. But he has recently started narrating his own videos. And I freaking love it. I love hearing your voice, sir. I love hearing your thoughts in your own voice. All right, folks. 16 miles. Just hit it. Going up to 8.4 miles an hour. So, hang on, folks. Cool. Keep the conversation going amongst yourselves, folks. So Zeppelin, yeah, freaking love them. They knocked down the door and said, we're here. And their first, 2 albums were just full bore, heavy rock and roll. Take No Prisoners, high energy, which as a runner, when you're trying to push your limits, for me, there's no better band to listen to. And with their third album, Led Zeppelin 3, the band themselves were so concerned that they were being thrown into a bin with the likes of Black Sabbath that they wanted to prove that they could be different. that they could do more, that their musicianship had a wider breadth. And so they took a big chance with that third record. And it was a majority of acoustic songs where you couldn't hide behind pounding drums and heavy distortion on the guitars. It was either, hey, this is a well-written song, or it's not. There's nowhere to hide when it's just you and an acoustic guitar. And what a record that was. But for me, while I love those first three records, it's from Led Zeppelin 4 on to the end, very much the same way as the Beatles. It's from that midpoint, Led Zeppelin 4, to the end of their career, where their body of work was just stunning. Harmonically adventurous, lyrically engaging, beautiful melodies that you never think would come out of a hard rock band. That here we are, 50 years and more later, and everybody still loves them. Came for running, staying for music. Chat, cool, awesome, Misty. Yeah, I was starting to bore myself talking just about running. So we'll cruise out the rest of these miles talking music. About to hit 16 and a half miles. Let me get my drink in and we'll keep on going. There it is, 16.5. Currently cruising at 8.4 miles an hour. So, yeah, Led Zeppelin 4, obviously, you've got Stairway to Heaven, sort of the quintessential Zeppelin song. But there's so much more on that record. The album opens with Black Dog. What a rocker. The main riff for Black Dog, you may or may not know, was not actually written. By the guitar player. It was John Paul Jones on bass. Brought that riff in. And you've got things like Two Sticks, The Battle of Evermore. Just incredible sort of songs that draw their inspiration from ancient Celtic subject matter, but also from chord progressions and chord voicings that come from old lute music. You know, Jimmy Page, the guitar player, was not just like a dumb rock and roller. He's a brilliant, brilliant composer. And it was around about Led Zeppelin 3 and into Led Zeppelin 4 and onwards, where he started to explore alternate tunings on the guitar more and more. So that by the time Houses of the Holy, their fifth album, came out, they were off into territory that nobody else was near, you know. And Houses of the Holy comes out with the likes of one of the most beautiful songs, one of the most beautiful rock and roll songs ever written. A Raining Song. I just can't believe the complexity of the chords and the beauty of that melody. You got Over the Hills and Far Away. You've got the rockers like the ocean at the end. The song remains the same to open the record. That to me is one of the perfect albums. You know, there were only a handful of perfect albums, and that's one. And then, of course, a series of tragedies kind of hit the band all in a row in a very short time. And so they were forced to kind of piece together an album just to keep the public happy that contained a lot of songs that were actually recorded at various different times in their career up to that point. And they kind of mashed them together to make an album. And that record is called Physical Graffiti. It's a double album. And man, you'd never know that that thing was put together sort of as a stopgap. What a towering achievement. You know, if you have any doubt, just put on Cashmere. Holy cow. Has a better song ever been written? Hey Susie, how's it going? I see you there. Thank you for joining in. We're just past the 17-mile mark. You get a drink. Anybody who was watching earlier? Misty asked me, she said that she watched the group chat the other night, Thursday night, with the Masters of YouTube. Susie wasn't on the chat because she was under the weather. And Susie, I hope you're feeling better. But Susie is a member of the Masters of YouTube. She rocks. Another great channel for motivation and inspiration. Susie's in training to run her first, I think, sub-2 half-marathon. Am I wrong? Please, Susie, add to the chat what your current goals are. But she rocks. She pushes hard. And she takes everybody along for the highs and the lows. And what more can you ask from a runner but to share everything so we can all learn and stay inspired? So yeah, as everyone comes out with Physical Graffiti, and in my mind, that album reminds me a lot because Physical Graffiti is a double album. In its original format, it was two vinyl records, and then when I bought the CD way back in the day, when CDs were a thing, it was a double CD. And what a towering statement that was. You know, 2 hours of music and not a piece of, no garbage, no filler. Just, that's the sign of a great band. You know, pop bands or rock bands who come and go, they approach record making as, okay, do we have 2 or 3 hits? If we've written 2 or 3 songs that could potentially be hits on radio, that will help to sell our record, then our work is done. The other 6 or 7 songs on the record can be garbage filler that we write while we're in the studio. We'll just start jamming, we'll record something, it just has to be good enough to fill the space. You get bands like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Stones, Pink Floyd. Yes, album-oriented bands who don't give a flying hoot. 17.5 miles. These classic album-oriented rock bands don't give a hoot about the radio hits. They didn't put out records until they had 10 good songs. Their attitude was, if you're going to put out an album with 10 songs on it, then your work isn't done until you've got 10 good songs that you can be proud of on your deathbed. You know, a lot of those songs They run on. They can be 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 minutes long. But that doesn't matter if you're not worried about writing a 2.5-minute little ditty that's going to get played on the radio. You just write your song and you let it bloom into whatever it wants to be. And to me, that's musicianship. That's the way classical music is written. That's the way jazz is written. And that's the way the best rock and roll is written. Yeah, we're 17.72 miles in. I'm going to be at 8.4 miles an hour right now. Getting close to the end. So, that's the Beatles, that's the Zeppelin. One of my other favorite bands of all time is Yes. And while they are a mega band, they're probably the least well-known of the bands I've talked about so far. If you know anything about Yes, it's probably from their 1971 album, Fragile, which featured the song, the opening track, Roundabout, which, I mean, if you don't know that song, wait till this live stream is over, and then go listen to Roundabout. It starts out with a classical guitar, descending in dyads through the E minor scale, hits that crushing first E minor chord, and we're off and running, folks. What an incredible track from an album which is also qualified as one of the few perfect albums, top to bottom, in my opinion. We're about to hit 18 miles. There's 18. I'm upping the speed. We're now traveling at 8.5 miles per hour, which, if I remember correctly, is a mile every 7 minutes and 4 seconds. Something like that, 7:04, 7:05 pace. So we'll just cruise here so I can keep on talking. As I said, when we started this was a down mileage week, an easy week. So I don't have anything to prove by cranking the speed up too high on this run. We're just going to get it done so that next week, when I have to go 80 miles, 80 miles at it, hopefully I'm not carrying too much fatigue from my efforts this week. We'll look after live. Yeah, Misty, assuming you're talking about Roundabout and the entire Fragile album, yes. That album is one of the best examples of progressive rock from the early 70s at its best. Yes is one of those bands that it's a 5-member band. John Anderson on vocals, who has super high vocals that cut through the most dense mix of instruments. And the classic Yes lineup is Bill Bruford on drums, Chris Squire on bass. May he rest in peace. What a monster of bass guitar. You had Steve Howe on guitars. And of course, the unbelievable Rick Wakeman on keyboards. It was a combination. Those 5 guys each and every one of them was like the best in rock and roll at their given instrument. And they all came together into one band. So, you know, what an incredible combination. And the amazing thing is about that band, found it on Amazon Music, Rock and Roll Misty. When this live is over, go into a quiet place where you don't have a lot of distractions and just let that album play in the exact order that the tracks are meant to be played. Don't shuffle them. Let the music tell its story. And yeah, every member of that band were virtuosos. But the amazing thing is, and what is so rare, a lot of bands will have virtuosic players who can play their instrument incredibly. But the more rare commodity, especially in rock and roll, 18.5 miles. The most rare commodity in rock and roll is not great players. It's great songwriters. You know, most rock and roll is 3 chords and a lot of whining. And that's what makes rock and roll great. I'm not knocking it. But yes, had incredible virtuosic players and 3 incredible songwriters. And John Anderson, the vocalist, Chris Squire, the bass player, and Steve Howe, the guitar player. Rick Wakeman was a classically trained pianist with incredible chops. But, you know, he wasn't like the most incredible songwriter. He could just play like nobody's business. And then Bill Bruford was like the quintessential incredible drummer. At any rate, the first 2 albums by Yes had a different lineup of musicians. And Steve Howe came on board, the guitar player, for their 3rd record called the Yes Album. And that was their first successful record. Misty and anybody else who's about to listen to Fragile, you may find a more friendly point of entry to start appreciating Yes if you listen to the Yes album first. It's like a nice mix between amazing musicianship with pop friendlier tunes. You know, songs like I've Seen All Good People. I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied I'm on my way. Sorry, singing and running. They don't go well together. Cool music. I'm sorry, Kirsten. At this stage of the run, I can't read it. I'll catch up as soon as this run is over. We're at 18.84 miles, so it won't be long before we're done. We'll talk for a little while after I stop to kind of wrap this up before we call it quits. So yeah, there are some beautiful songs on the Yes album. That was their 3rd album, and then they followed that up like 7 or 8 months later with Fragile. So it was a band of musicians who were just hitting their peak of creativity right there. And I don't want to belabor this talk about this one band, but let me recommend this. If you're going to listen to Yes, if you want to discover a new great band, listen to the Yes album, because those got some beautiful, happy, friendly tunes on them. Then take it into Fragile, which is a little bit more adventurous. And then the album, 6 months after Fragile came out, Yes released another album that I consider a perfect record. not just a perfect record, but I'm about to share with you what I consider the best rock album ever released, ever. No qualifiers, the best rock album ever made. Was released by Yes 6 months after Fragile came out. And it's called Close to the Edge. The album cover is just a field of green color, fading from light green to dark green, and then in the beautiful artwork by Mr. Roger Dean, it says Yes, Close to the Edge. The album has 3 songs. The first 2 songs, there's one song, I think it's like 7, 8, 9 minutes long, called And You and I. A beautiful, lilting, little acoustic song that switches into electric instruments, but always remains this delicate little flower of a song. And then the second song on side 1 is a little 9-minute ditty called Siberian Katru, which is a stunning, up-tempo zephyr of a song. It's energy from top to bottom and beautifully written. And then on the old vinyl record, I flipped that record, and the backside, the B-side of Yes, It's Close to the Edge album is the song itself, Close to the Edge. It's a 21-minute, one song side. And my God, the song is made up of 5 movements, very much in the classical structure. I can only recommend you listen to that song with the lights out and the headphones on. The first time you hear it, you'll say, oh, that's a long song with some pretty parts. Listen to it 2 or 3 times. You start to become familiar with the movements and how they flow into each other. And I think it will take you but 2 or 3 listens to that record to understand and to feel emotionally why I think that's the best album ever recorded. Folks, we are coming up fast on 19.5 miles. And there's 19.5 miles right there. Let's have a little fun. Let's dip into the 6 minutes and change per mile pace. Okay. Now we're running at 6:57 pace for the last half mile. So that's pretty good timing. We finished off with me talking about the details of what I think is the best album ever recorded. So again, that's Yes Is Close to the Edge. If you end up loving it on YouTube, you can probably find the video from 1971 or 72 of a video they put out way back in the day, 50 years ago. A video accompaniment of a live album that they put out called Yes Songs. And you'll get to see them play all these amazing songs live. And that's where you will understand how incredible these guys are as instrumentalists and musicians, because they play every single one of these songs note perfect, 2 hours. And to watch them with these huge smiles on their faces because they're having so much fun and the crowd is so freaking into it. And you can't believe that musicianship in pop music was ever at such an incredible height. And of course, by the mid-late 70s, bands of that caliber were being frowned upon because you actually had to know how to play your instrument in order to be good. The punk movement came along, and the new ethos for pop music very quickly became, oh, if you know how to play your instrument, you're old news, get out of the way. Now, best punk music, of course, is great. Every kind of music has great moments. But, you know, need I say more? Nice running, says, working with Tamsin. Thank you. All right, folks, we are at 19.91 miles. It's the final straightaway. Moving at 8.6 miles per hour currently. All right, coming in the lead. 19.95. I've got to say, everyone, this went by pretty quick. 2 hours and 30 minutes and a handful of seconds. Thank you for joining me. I had a wonderful time talking to all of you. And 20 miles. Let's bring this down. 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 28 seconds. There it is. And I live to tell the tale. Holy moly. Thank you again for joining me, everybody who stopped in to say hello. Thank you for the support. Thank you for listening to an old man's ramblings. Yes, Misty, we got it done. Thank you for sticking with me. All right, I got to walk a couple of minutes here and let the lactic acid drain from my legs a little bit. Whew. I'll save the post-run stretch for after the live stream is over. But glad it's over. I'll tell you one thing. I appreciate moving my long runs to Saturday mornings instead of Sunday afternoons. That means I got the rest of the day and all of tomorrow to kind of do weekend stuff. So that's pretty cool. 20 miles done and dusted. Well, tomorrow we'll put a cap on this 7-day down week, where, again, I will only run about 64 miles this week. And then tomorrow I'm back to the hard grind. Next week will be an 80-mile week. And then there will be 3 more weeks of hard pushing before I go into taper mode and attempt to run a 2-hour and 45-minute marathon at the Tobacco Road Marathon in Cary, North Carolina on March 20th. Please, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, consider it. As a coach, I try to bring you quality content that will help you on your running journey. I like to bring you all the highs and lows, everything I learned, either the hard way or not, in my training. And I like to take everybody along for the ride and share the great advice that I get from others, like so many of you who have joined me throughout this run today. I don't want to belabor this. I know everybody's got somewhere to be at. It's early afternoon on a Saturday, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you. So with that, folks, let me just hit stop on the machine and lean in here and say thank you. It was a good run. I had fun, reading through everything. Misty says, holy moly is right. Great job, great conversation. Thank you, Misty. I hope you get a chance to check out some of those albums. You won't be disappointed. Some of my favorite stuff. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
and have a great day. I will be putting out my next 245 Marathon Revenge video Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for your continued support, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.